8900. Now, back to Bob Lassiter.
Off it is to Darian. Hi there, Darian. You're on the air at WLX.
Yeah, Bob, I've been listening to your show, and in the course of your different topics, sometimes I agree with you, sometimes I don't. And you always say that, you get the people to think and so forth and so on. And you have great topics, but after you get everybody thinking and revved up, that's where you stop. And you offer nothing else past that. Tomorrow, you count up your...
Oh, you mean I haven't done your thinking for you? I didn't give you a solution.
Well, that's right. You never do.
Oh. Well, yeah, you see, that's the whole problem. I don't give solutions. You're the one that's supposed to come up with a solution.
Well, we can debate. I know, we can come up with all kinds of solutions. We can talk about where the government should get the money, who is actually needy, who is not needy, and so forth. But my suggestion is that when you come up with a topic...
Well, your suggestion, sir, is soundly, roundly, totally denied and rejected. I'm not here to give you solutions.
Well, I'm not asking that you do.
Oh, not much.
I'm asking for you to give a solution, but there is, in this case, in this particular topic, there are groups out there that are trying to help the homeless. And I think at points in your show, whether once during the show or a couple times during the show, whatever the topic may be, say this is a group that you can call and...
Oh, yes, sir. Probably 2/3 of my audience are homeless people.
2/3 are homeless.
Oh, at least. Maybe 3/4 of them are homeless people. They're all gathered around radios and vacant lots throughout the entire Chicagoland area listening to the show.
All the people that are calling you, telling you what they should do.
Hey, Fred, you want to pass me the pencil with your drill so I can write down the number for the homeless shelters Lassiter's just given out?
Yeah.
Bob, if you get one person to call an organization and help or donate their time or help money or do something to homeless, isn't that worth it?
No, sir. What is worth it, sir, is for me to ask you a simple question. You feel bad about what happened last night?
Do I feel bad about it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we'll see how bad you feel. 591-8900, 591-8900, Coletta. Hi there, Coletta. You're on the air at WLX.
Bob, this is John out here in Coletta. How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you.
I was just thinking, I've heard you talk about this before, previously, and I think I come up with a pretty good solution. This man was looking for a solution. Out here in the rural areas, our census has been down this year. We have a lot of vacant homes, properties that need people to live in. If we could get churches to sponsor one homeless family and then move them out into our community, give them a job where they would receive state pay like a road commissioner assistant or something on that order, Let them have it for a year. The church would take care of them, pretty much for that first year. Then they'd receive a salary from the state, and after that year, the church could let them go and let them fend for themselves.
Thank you much. 591-8900 to a payphone. It is Pay. You're on the air at WLX.
Yeah. Yeah, what the other guy was saying, I was just thinking, I'm a limo driver, and I'm inside and out the airport almost 4 times a day, and I see these homeless people walking around. I don't see why they can't go out, get cleaned up, and get a job.
Where are they supposed to be cleaned up?
Somebody can help them get cleaned up. They don't want them to live there.
Who's going to help them get cleaned up?
I have no idea. But I don't see why they can't work. They walk around, push around cards, hang around the parking lot collecting these cards, and I don't see why they can't go out and make some real money.
Well, one of the things that a lot of employers like you to have is an address and a phone number.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, instead of giving them...
And good health.
Instead of giving someplace to live away, why don't they make them work for it? That's the only thing I had to say about it. Because I don't see why people want to give the stuff away when they can work for it. I don't get nothing free. I have to work for what I have. If I quit working, I'll be in the same spot they are.
Don't you ever forget it.
Standoff in Berwyn is over. I'm Jim Johnson. Here are the stories we'll be talking about on WLX.
I think you're lying to yourself. You're all...
Get off my phone!
Now you sit there and you listen to me, guy. You sit there and you listen real close. You probably think you're a good neighbor. You probably think you're a fine American. You probably think you're a good neighbor and a good citizen and maybe even a good Christian or a good Jew or a good Muslim or a good atheist. I'm sorry if you can't deal with the truth. I'm sorry if you can't deal with any facts. I'm sorry if you can't deal with it. I'm telling you it happened. And it damn near happened to me. You want to know how it happened? I'll be delighted to tell you how it happened, fella. I'll just split my gut open here for you, and you can sit there and see if you can believe now. I had no family, friends. You know why I had no family? Well, I'll tell you why. On my mother's side, it's because when she died, she told me she didn't want a mass, and she told her sisters that she did. And when I didn't have a mass for her, they wouldn't talk to me anymore. So that's how you end up with not having any family on your mom's side. On my father's side, well, I was the prize in the divorce case. I've told you about that. Which just made me persona non grata. I didn't exist. So the only family I had was my ex-wife's family, and they weren't overly thrilled to be my buddy in the middle of a divorce. And I found myself out of work. And I found myself sending tapes and calls and begging and pleading for a job in my profession. And it went on for months after months after months after months. And I didn't get one. And so suddenly I started applying at dry cleaning stores. And I started applying at TV rental stores. And I started applying for jobs as a truck driver. And if I would tell the truth, I wouldn't even get an application. So I'd have to lie. And it so happened that I had a few of the trappings left over from the good days. When you pull up in front of the dry cleaning store in a $20,000 Volvo and you go in a $450 sports jacket to apply for a $4.50 job, they don't believe you. I know about making 8 pieces of bologna stretch for a week. I know about sitting down at 12:30 every single day looking forward to your lousy 1 piece of bologna sandwich and some mustard. And I know about cutting down that has been a very lucky man to this point in your life. It hasn't happened to you, and guess what? The odds are it won't. But I certainly do hope, sir, that if the odds don't hold out for you, that you don't encounter people like yourself who don't believe it. You think I'm proud about that period of my life? No, I do everything in my power to block it out. But good God, man, like I said in the monologue, and like I'll say gladly again, there's hardly a problem that we have in the world, in the nation, in our personal lives that wouldn't be one hell of a lot better if each of us would make an effort to try to put ourselves into the other guy's shoes. Try to see his side of the story. It doesn't mean his side of the story is right. But nobody is 100% right and nobody is 100% wrong. But it's just so much easier to have a holier-than-thou attitude if you don't even try to believe that it can happen. Try to put yourself in the other guy's position. So much easier, isn't it? I didn't really want to get angry today. As a matter of fact, I saw your call come up on the screen, and I said to my producer during the newscast, don't let him get away. Hold him. Make sure he's there when I come back out of the newscast. Because I was going to play with you, sir. I was going to toy with you. No, I was going to take that little, oh, yes, sir, you've caught me. That's one of the oldest tricks in the book. I do this to get ratings. No, none of it's true. I was going to play with you, sir. I was going to make you look like an ass. And then ceremoniously dismiss you when I had milked you dry for ratings. That's what I get paid to do, sir. It's to get ratings. Not in the least bit ashamed of it. It's what everybody in this business gets paid to do. But unfortunately, sir, you stepped on my toes. Unfortunately, sir, with your callousness, you probed a little bit too deep. Unfortunately, sir, you touched a nerve. I remember, sir. I remember sitting there crying like a fool. I remember, sir, falling on my knees and doing something that I know in my heart was foolish and a waste of my time and begging God to get me out of that mess. Like I said, sir, I'd lost all self-respect. Don't you dare tell me I'm lying about it. Don't you dare tell me it didn't happen. Because when you tell me, sir, in essence, what you're doing is saying to everybody else who is in that position or who has ever been in that position that they're not telling the truth. You really pissed me off, sir. Big time. And I hope that you lose the phone number and never call back again. To Round Lake Beach, it is Round Lake. You're on air at WLS.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Bob. I'm really disgusted at the lack of compassion of people nowadays. I come from a small town in Pennsylvania. My whole family had to move because the steel mills and the coal mines closed down. So we went west. In our town, we took care of those that couldn't take care of themselves through circumstances that they had no control over, and they lifted themselves up. All they need is a hand. They don't need shelter. They need to work. The reason they can't work is greed. I remember when I was 17, I could walk up and down Elston Avenue, go to a million different factories, and I could get 3 jobs in one day. They weren't the greatest jobs, but it was a job. Those jobs are no longer available. And there are people in this country that need that type of work. It's work.
Well, you're assuming that everybody that finds himself in that position is, first of all, reasonably young. Secondly, reasonably able to work. For example, I don't know if you saw the story in the Sun-Times this morning, but one of the people that they focused on was an elderly woman. Well past retirement age. She happens to get Social Security, $400 and some odd bucks a month. But she can't maintain her own home. Okay, we might sit here and argue, well, if she went out and got, 2 or 3 other people and they pulled her resources and so forth and so on, and that's all fine and well, but she didn't for whatever reason. Maybe she wasn't smart enough to. Maybe it just never dawned on her. Maybe she tried and it failed. It doesn't make any difference why. The fact is, there is an example of somebody, jobs won't help her at this point in the game.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
Every single person out there has a totally different story.
Oh, that's right. I get one more thing I wanted to say to you. I get real disgusted when people call up and they scream at you that you're a liberal, and we hear about the tax and spend liberals. I've been following the budgets and all this stuff more and more lately as I'm getting older, and I don't make a lot of money myself, so I'm very concerned about all this. I think that we should redefine this conservative and liberal. I think the conservatives like to take the money and spend it out of the country, spend it on big projects that don't help the country. I think the liberals, as we're so called, or I say liberal because that's the term they use, would rather see the money spent where it can do some good for the country as a whole. And I get a little disgusted at that.
I disagree with you. I don't think that liberalism or conservatism has a damn thing to do with compassion and humanity. There are an awful lot of people who are just, frankly, subhuman pigs who hide behind a cause or a political label like conservative because they mistakenly feel that most people who call themselves conservatives are just as ruthless, just as heartless as they are.
That could very well be. From my position, though, I always considered myself a liberal. But now I don't know whether I'm a liberal or a conservative because I see that money needs to be spent in certain areas, which some people would say, well, that makes you a liberal. And I see that if I want to conserve on something, if I think that this money is wasted, then that's conserving. It's just a different way to spend the money.
I don't know that, well, obviously money has to be spent. There are no two ways about that. But the problem is not whether or not we allocate money. The problem is attitude. The problem is that nobody really gives a damn about these people. It's not that people are stingy necessarily, that they don't want to spend the bucks, or we don't have the bucks, or it's a matter of priorities. The fact is, the vast majority of us never think about them, don't want to think about them, don't want to see them. Oh, I've admitted, I don't want to see them because it makes me feel guilty. And it's an attitudinal problem. This is, governmental, it's in industry, and it's in the private sector, and it's in your heart, and it's in my heart, across the board.
It exists. I had a friend who went through something similar to you. He had a family that didn't want anything to do with him. He got divorced through no fault of his own, and his wife didn't want nothing to do with him, and her family didn't want nothing to do with him. And he ended up giving his wife everything, and he lived in his car for a winter, and he stayed by my house a few nights a week. When he could, he stayed at another person's house. He'd come to my house and take a bath. And that opened my eyes that it can happen to anybody. And we all need to think about it. People are disgusted because someone smells. Well, don't be disgusted that they smell. Be disgusted at the thought of why they have to be that way.
And that's what it boils down to, and that's what nobody wants to deal with.
And that is, I get really, I've been brought to tears by seeing someone in a bad position and knowing that I can't help them personally. There are times when I have been able to help people, and I have helped them, and it made me feel good. I think more people need to get a little bit of that good feeling, and maybe it'll turn things around a little bit. I don't have a solution. If I had a solution, I certainly wouldn't be in the position I'm in.
There is no solution. There is no let's do this and the problem will go away tomorrow kind of answer. It does not exist. We didn't get this way overnight. We're not going to get away from it overnight. But the solution can't even begin to be found until we start to crack a little bit, start to let that heart melt a little bit, start to consider what indeed it is that we're talking about. Human beings, not homeless, not derelicts, not lazy people, human beings.
It has to be brought to a more personal level.
I mean, it is beyond me how somebody can sit in a reasonably comfortable office in a reasonably comfortable home and give out an order, go out and get those SOBs the hell out of the airport so we don't have to see them.
Well, that's
beyond me.
Out of sight, out of mind.
That's obviously the policy.
That's what it is. I was going to bring up the point, too, about Governor Thompson closing down all the mental health facilities. Now, I know all these people on the street didn't come from there, but it put enough of them into the mainstream of the population that we became aware of the problem. And instead of becoming aware and trying to do something about it, we try to hide it more. Well, they're not, you know what I mean? My sister had someone that broke out of one of those places and slept by her house every night. And when they closed the place down, it became even more. And everybody in the neighborhood was crazy about, we got to stop this. I don't want these people sleeping at my door. We got to get them out. Call the police, get them out of here, throw them in jail, lock them up. That's not the solution either. As you said, there's no one easy answer.
Well, one of the things that they might try to do, a classic management problem, be it government management or corporation management, one of the things they might try to do is to ask these people, well, why don't you want to go to the shelter? Why didn't you go to the shelter? They'd find out that a lot of them are terrified of the shelters, terrified of the kind of people that go there, terrified of the conditions, terrified of the lack of security, terrified about the hygienic conditions. Yeah, that might be one way to start. Before you go throwing them the hell out of the airport, try to figure out where they might like to be, and if it's a reasonable request, and if their complaints and their fears are legitimate, because a hell of a lot of them are.
Oh, I agree with that. They're not listened to because they're not. People look at them and say, well, if they were smart enough to know what they wanted and what was good for them, they wouldn't be sleeping in the airport.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye-bye.
591-8900, 551 the time. WLS Talk Radio 890, Chicago's talk station. The weather forecast. Fair, not as cool tonight, mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow. An overnight low of 40 degrees. Tomorrow's high 68 degrees. WLS Skyview Traffic with Bill Keller is next. This edition brought to you by Royal Vejden Carpet.
WLS Talk Radio 890. The phone lines are open, 591-8900. Once again, here's Bob Lassiter.
To a payphone we go. Hi there, Pay. You're on the air at WLS.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Salutations. I have an answer to the original question of this past couple of hours. No, I would not be upset. The reason I wouldn't be is that there's opportunities, and people that are removing them are taking them to a legitimate shelter, and they are being cared for and being fed and being housed at these shelters, even if it's just for one night. These people have to take it upon themselves to get out of the situation they're in.
Well, how about if they can't?
Well, if they can't, then they need to try. If they can't
How about if they can't try?
Huh?
How about if they can't try?
Then someone needs to take care of them.
How about if they don't want to be taken care of?
Then they're double negative. They have nowhere to go. Would you agree?
To Zion it is. Hello there, Zion. You're on the air at WLS.
Yes, hello, Bob.
Hi.
I'm a first-time caller, and I'm a little... But, okay, I really don't have a solution for your problem there, but what I could say is, just listening to you today, to be honest with you, I'm just one paycheck away from being homeless myself. And the way some of these, the way some of your listeners has addressed the issue, well, I'm almost... I have just about lost my nerve to talk. But, wow. Hey, Bob, I'm just too nervous to talk. But, well, hey, bye-bye, Bob.
To the north side. North, you're on the air at WLS. Hello, north side.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to tell you how pleased I am with this program, especially, with you're just stimulating a lot of good thoughts. I just came back from Louisiana about 4 days ago, and when I was in the airport, I was rather grateful because I had a lot of suitcases and what have you, and there was one of the homeless people that came up and, took my cart and everything. So they were certainly no bother to me, and I also heard of many, handicapped people who appreciate that the homeless come up and help them, assisting them with the cart and what have you. So I don't have any complaints about the homeless, but I came here from Louisiana about a year and a half ago, and I ran into the problem there in Louisiana when the weather gets cold. Nobody believes that there was homeless. When the weather gets cold and goes down to 30, we couldn't convince anybody that there was homeless, and there are homeless people there. And there are people who have homes that just, it's just not set up. The homes are not set up for heat. So we had to go around begging, the churches. And what we did is we finally got one church to donate their auditorium. And then we got the...
Could you speed it up? I'm, way behind here. What's the bottom line on this, please?
Yes, well, I was just thinking maybe the same thing could be done here where we get churches to donate their basement. And we can go to... What we did is we went to the reserves and we had them donate...
Well, again, I'm sorry, I can't... I just don't have the time to listen to the story. I hate to do that to you, but...
This is WLS Talk Radio 890. WLS Chicago. The time at the tone is 6 o'clock.
Hey, welcome back, Fun Seekers. 7 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Lassiter with you at WLS Talk Radio 890, Chicago's talk station. On Monday, October the 29th, 1990. I have no idea what we're going to do this hour, but I'll tell you this much. I have blown off everybody that was on hold because I can't deal with it. Something terrible, terrible, terrible has happened. Something that's not supposed to happen, but something that did happen. I got mad. This is what I do for a living. I enjoy it very, very much. And I like to provoke thought. I like to provoke conversation. I like to provoke people. I don't like to be provoked myself. I had fully anticipated hearing a pretty fair number of people without any concern or compassion for, those poor Slavs out there, those poor souls. And that was all part of the game plan. That was to entertain the majority of you. That's what I do for a living. I get paid to entertain, and that's how I try to entertain. And I'm usually pretty damn successful at it, thank you. I got up this morning, I saw the article in the paper, and I thought, well, gee, that would make a couple of good hours. Make a couple of really good hours, and I thought about it myself. Geez, I don't like to see this stuff either, but, God, what are we going to do? Well, I'll just lay it out there, and I'll just say to them, did you feel bad about it? Because I know most people felt bad about it, and they'll forget it tomorrow morning. And I know that a lot of people, not anywhere near most, but a lot of people didn't feel the least bit bad about it and would have absolutely no compunction whatsoever about coming forward and saying, no, I didn't feel bad about it. The hell with it, they'll go get jobs or something, pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Well, you see, we don't really have a homeless problem in this country. We don't have a homeless problem at all, to tell you the truth. It does not exist. We have another problem of which homelessness is a result. Now, I normally work from notes, and I don't have any notes right now. So I'm just going to talk to you from the top of my head and from my heart. I don't want to talk about homelessness anymore. I don't want to talk about let's open up the gyms or let's open up the schools or let's, put them in the mansions from the state loan thieves, that kind of stuff. That's all fine and well, and I'm not faulting you for it. But we're going to talk about in this hour what the problem really is. We're going to talk about in this hour what this country will not deal with, does not want to admit to, will not face in any shape, manner, or form. We're going to talk about the real world. We're going to talk about the real problem. At least I am for the next 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. And as you know, this is the dreaded third and final hour, and after that you can talk about whatever the hell you want. But we're going to talk about the real problem. And that is this nation, this society, this country, this people's inability to acknowledge and deal with mental health. Because that's what we're really talking about. We're talking about people who just can't get it together anymore for one reason or another, who maybe possibly could if they were dealt with properly, if there were facilities and treatment available for them. A place to sleep, a meal, clean clothes, a shower. And that's all nice, but it doesn't begin to address the problem. The problem is that we refuse to admit that mental health is for real. Oh, we'll say that somebody's crazy.
Ah, geez, he's crazy.
But we don't want to say that it's a disease, it's an illness, and it's frequently treatable. And sometimes it isn't. What happened in my life was the coming together of a whole lot of little disasters and failures that just overwhelmed me. And sometimes it happens to other people, too. And I have no problem sitting there and saying to you, I was in a deep, deep, deep depression. A paralyzing depression. Where I couldn't make intelligent decisions. I couldn't do anything. Because my mind wouldn't let me. And I got better. And it went away, and maybe it'll never come back. Maybe it will. There's no way of knowing. And each and every one of you have suffered from that to one degree or another. Each and every one of you. To one degree or another. Probably numerous times. Every time you get the blues. Every time, man, I'm just down today. Every time you can't get out of bed for one reason or another. Every time you can't face the world, can't face the boss. The time that you called in and told them you'd sprained your knee, but you just couldn't face another day in there. You were suffering from a form of mental illness. Mental illness is just like any other illness. Sometimes it's relatively insignificant, sometimes it's damn significant, and most times it's someplace in between. Sometimes you get a real bad cold, sometimes you just get a light one. Sometimes you get a killer headache, sometimes you just get a light one. Well, the people that we're talking about are human beings, first and foremost, are the people that we were talking about. Let me hasten to add that. Are first and foremost human beings. Human beings who suffer from the same damn thing you suffer from time to time. They just have a worse case of it right now. try to pretend that they're lazy or that they're derelicts or that they just don't want to work or that they want handouts or that they really want to be out there. Or to try to pretend that it's not really a problem, there are only a handful of them. It serves no purpose. Nor does it serve any purpose to talk about, well, the church, you should take care of it. Well, like I said, the real problem isn't a place to sleep and a warm meal and a jacket. That's not the real problem. That's all fine and well, and praise the Lord for the people who provide those needs, and I wish that there were more of them, but the real problem is dealing with what the problem is. And the problem is that these people just can't face the world. Maybe they'll never be able to. Think about the little old lady that they were talking about in the Sun-Times this morning. A woman who at one time was able to take care of herself, productive member of society, paid her taxes in all probability, probably had friends and loved ones and a photograph album, and somewhere along the line as she started to get older in the society that she lives in, and the world that she lives in, and the country that she lives in, and in the head that she has to live in, it just all fell apart one day. Does she need a place to sleep? A safe place? Yes, she does. Does she need a warm meal? Yes, she does. Does she need a new winter coat? Probably she does. But far, far, far more than that,